Gollum was dreadfully disappointed. But Bilbo asked another riddle as quick as ever he could. No legs lay on one leg. 2 legs sat near on 3 legs. 4 legs got some. It wasn't really the right time for this riddle, but Bilbo was in a hurry. As it was, talking of fish, no legs was not so very difficult, and after that the rest was easy. Fish on a little table, man at table sitting on a stool, the cat has the bones. That, of course, is the answer, and Gollum soon got it. Then he thought the time had come to ask something hard and horrible. This is what he said.
This thing all things devours, birds, beasts, trees, flowers, gnaws iron, bites steel, grinds hard stones to meal, slays kings, ruins town, and beats high mountain down.
Poor Bilbo sat in the dark thinking of all the horrible names of all the giants and ogres he had ever heard told of in tales, but not one of them had done all these things. He began to get frightened. Gollum began again to get out of his boat. Bilbo could see his eyes coming towards him. His tongue seemed to stick in his mouth. He wanted to shout out, "Give me more time!" But all that he could squeal was, "Time! Time!" Bilbo was saved by pure luck, for that, of course, was the answer. Gollum's frustration was now pure hatred. This time he did not go back to his boat. He sat down in the dark by Bilbo.
It's got to ask us a question, my precious. Yes, yes, yes. One more question to ask. Yes,
said Gollum. But Bilbo simply could not think of any.
Ask us, ask us,
said Gollum. Bilbo pinched himself and gripped on his little sword. He even felt in his pocket with his other hand. There he found the ring he had picked up in the passage and forgotten about. "What have I got in my pocket?" he said aloud. He was talking to himself, but Gollum thought it was a riddle.
Not fair, not fair, he hissed. It isn't fair, my precious, is it, to ask us what it's got in its nasty little pockets is?
Bilbo, seeing what had happened, stuck to his question. Hissed Gollum.
It must give us 3 guesses, my precious. 3 guesses.
Very well. Guess away, said Bilbo.
Handses,
said Gollum. Wrong. Guess again.
Knife,
he said at last. Wrong, said Bilbo, who had lost his some time ago. Last guess. Come on, said Bilbo. I am waiting. Time's up, he said.
String, or nothing,
shrieked Gollum, which was not quite fair, working in 2 guesses at once.
Both wrong,
cried Bilbo, very much relieved, and he jumped at once to his feet, put his back to the nearest wall, and held out his little sword. He felt he could not trust this slimy thing to keep any promise. At last Bilbo could wait no longer. Well, he said, what about your promise? I want to go. You must show me the way.
Did we say so, precious? Show the nasty little Baggins the way out? Yes, yes. But what has it got in its pockets, eh?
Never you mind, said Bilbo. A promise is a promise.
Across it is, impatient, precious, hissed Gollum. But it must wait, yes, it must. We can't go up the tunnels so hasty. We must go and get some things first, yes, things to help us.
Well, hurry up, said Bilbo, relieved to think of Gollum going away. Not far away was his island, of which Bilbo knew nothing. And there in his hiding place he kept a few wretched ornaments, and one very beautiful thing, very beautiful, very wonderful. He had a ring, a golden ring, a precious ring.
My birthday present,
he whispered to himself as he had often done in the endless dark days.
That's what we want now, yes, we want it.
He wanted it because it was a ring of power. and if you slipped that ring on your finger, you were invisible. Only in the full sunlight could you be seen, and then only by your shadow, and that would be shaky and faint.
Quite safe, yes, he whispered to himself. It won't see us, will it, my precious? No, and then its nasty little sword will be quite useless. Yes, quite.
That was what was in his wicked little mind, as he slipped suddenly from Bilbo's side and flapped back to his boat and went off into the dark. Still Bilbo waited, for he had no idea how to find his way out alone. Suddenly he heard a terrible scream. It sent a shiver right down his spine.
Where is it? Where is it?
Bilbo heard him crying.
Lost it is, my precious, lost, lost. Curse us and crush us. My precious is lost.
What's the matter? Bilbo called.
It mustn't ask us,
shrieked Gollum.
Not its business. No, Gollum. It's lost. Gollum. Gollum. Gollum.
Well, so am I, cried Bilbo. And I want to get unlost, and I won the game, and you promised. So let me out, and then go on with your looking.
No, not yet, precious,
Gollum answered.
We must search for it. It's lost. Gollum.
But you never guessed my last question, and you promised, said Bilbo.
Never guessed,
said Gollum. Then suddenly out of the gloom came a sharp hiss.
What has it got in its pocket, sis? Tell us that. It must tell first.
Answers were to be guessed, not given, said Bilbo.
But it wasn't a fair question, said Gollum. Not a riddle, precious. No.
Oh, well, if it's a matter of ordinary questions, Bilbo replied, then I asked one first. What have you lost? Tell me that.
What has it got in its pocket, sis?
The sound came hissing louder and sharper, and as he looked towards it, to his alarm, Bilbo now saw two small points of light peering at him. As suspicion grew in Gollum's mind, the light of his eyes burned with a pale flame.
What have you lost?
Bilbo persisted. Gollum was in his boat again, paddling wildly back to the dark shore, and such a rage of loss and suspicion was in his heart that no sword had any more terror for him. Bilbo could not guess what had maddened the wretched creature, but he saw that all was up, and that Gollum meant to murder him at any rate, and ran blindly back up the dark passage, keeping close to the wall and feeling it with his left hand.
What has it got in its pocket, sis?
He heard the hiss loud behind him. What have I wonder, he said to himself as he panted and stumbled along. He put his left hand in his pocket. The ring felt very cold as it quietly slipped on his groping forefinger. The hiss was close behind him. He turned now and saw Gollum's eyes like small green lamps coming up the slope. Terrified, he tried to run faster, but suddenly he struck his toes on a snag in the floor and fell flat with his little sword under him. In a moment, Gollum was on him. But before Bilbo could do anything, Gollum passed by, taking no notice of him, cursing and whispering as he ran.
Curse it, curse it, curse it,
hissed Gollum.
Curse the Baggins. It's gone. What has it got in its pocket, sis? Oh, we guess. My precious, he's found it. Yes, he must have. My birthday present. My birthday present. Curse it. How did we lose it, my precious? Yes, that's it. When we came this way last. That's it. It's gone. Gollum.
Suddenly Gollum sat down and began to weep. A whistling and gurgling sound horrible to listen to. After a while, he stopped weeping and began to talk to himself.
It's no use. The Baggins has got it in its pocket, sis. The nasty noser has found it, he says. He guesses, precious, only guesses. We can't know till we find the nasty creature and squeezes it. But it doesn't know what the present can do, does it? It'll just keep it in its pockets. It doesn't know, and it can't go far. It's lost itself, the nasty, nosy thing. It doesn't know the way out. It knows a way in. It must know a way out. Yes, it's off to the back door. To the back door. That's goblins will catch it then. It can't get out that way, precious. Gollum! Goblins is... Yes, but if it's got the present, our precious present, then goblins will get it. Gollum! They'll find it. They'll find out what it does. We shan't ever be safe again, never. Gollum! One of the goblins will put it on and then no one will see him. He'll be there but not seen. Not even our clever eyes will notice him. And he'll come creepsy and tricksy and catch us. Gollum! Gollum!
With a spring, Gollum got up and started shambling off at a great pace. Bilbo hurried after him, though his chief fear now was of tripping on another snag and falling with a noise. His head was in a whirl of hope and wonder. It seemed that the ring he had was a magic ring. It made you invisible. There it was. Gollum, with his bright eyes, had passed him by only a yard to one side. On they went, Gollum flip-flapping ahead, hissing and cursing. They came to where side passages opened this way and that. Gollum began at once to count them.